What happens when the line between life and death is blurred by science? Dr. Emily Thorne had always been driven by ambition. At just 35, she had become one of the most renowned neurosurgeons in the world. Her latest project was her most audacious yet, the first ever human head transplant. The procedure was set to take place in an isolated high-tech facility in the Swiss Alps, where she and her team could work without distractions or interference. Her patient, David Hall, was a 50-year-old billionaire philanthropist suffering from a rare and aggressive form of bone cancer. His body was failing, but his mind remained sharp. David had funded the entire project, seeing it as his only chance at survival. His donor was a young man named Adam, a comatose patient with no chance of recovery, but a perfectly healthy body. The night before the surgery, Emily walked through the sterile hallways of the facility, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She stopped at the observation window of the operating room, staring at the two bodies that lay prepped and ready. Anxiety gnawed at her, but she quickly pushed it aside. Failure was not an option. The surgery lasted 18 hours, a grueling test of skill and endurance. Emily's hands moved with precision, her team following her lead flawlessly. By the time they were done, David's head was successfully attached to Adam's body. The next 48 hours were critical as they monitored him for signs of rejection or complications. As the hours passed, David showed remarkable progress. By the third day, he was conscious and responsive. Emily stood at his bedside, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. "How do you feel?" she asked, her voice tinged with excitement. David's eyes opened slowly, and he looked around the room before focusing on Emily. "Strange," he murmured, "like I'm not myself." "That's to be expected," Emily reassured him. "Your mind needs time to adjust to the new body, but you're doing great." For the next few days, David's recovery continued to exceed expectations. He was able to speak, move, and even walk with assistance. Emily was hailed as a genius. Her name splashed across headlines worldwide. The medical community buzzed with excitement about the possibilities her breakthrough had unlocked. However, as David's physical health improved, his mental state began to deteriorate. He complained of vivid nightmares and a constant feeling of being watched. At first, Emily attributed it to the trauma of the surgery and the medications he was taking. But as the days passed, his paranoia grew more intense. "Someone's following me," David whispered one night as Emily checked his vitals. "I can feel him. He's always there, just out of sight." Emily frowned, noting the fear in his eyes. "David, there's no one here but us. You're safe." David grabbed her wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. "No, you don't understand. It's Adam. He's still here, inside my mind. He wants his body back." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had read about the phenomenon known as cellular memory, where transplant recipients reported experiencing emotions and memories of their donors. But this was different, more sinister. "We'll adjust your medication," she said calmly, though her mind raced with concern. "Get some rest, David." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She pored over medical journals and case studies, searching for answers. What she found only deepened her unease. Cases of cellular memory were rare and usually benign. Cravings for certain foods, fleeting memories. But there were accounts, though unverified, of more disturbing experiences. Some recipients claimed to be haunted by their donors' spirits, driven to madness by voices and visions. The next morning, Emily found David in a state of agitation. He had scratched at his skin until it bled. muttering incoherently about Adam's presence. Emily decided to sedate him, hoping to give him some peace while she figured out what to do. As she injected the sedative, David's eyes locked onto hers. "He's coming for you too, you know. You brought him back. Now he'll never leave." Emily shivered, trying to shake off his words. She couldn't let fear cloud her judgment. She needed to stay rational, to find a scientific explanation. Over the following days, the facility's atmosphere grew oppressive. Shadows seemed to linger longer, and strange noises echoed through the halls. Emily's team, once enthusiastic and confident, became tense and withdrawn. The sense of unease was palpable. One night, Emily was jolted awake by the sound of a crash. She hurried to the operating room, where she found David thrashing on the floor, his eyes wild with terror. "Get him out!" he screamed. "Get him out of my head!" Emily rushed to his side, but as she reached for him, she felt a cold presence behind her. She turned, but there was nothing there, just shadows. David's convulsions grew more violent. Emily called for her team, but when they arrived, it was too late. David's body went limp, his eyes staring vacantly at the ceiling. Emily sank to the floor, her mind racing. What had she done? In her quest for medical advancement, had she crossed a line that should never have been crossed? As she sat there, she heard a whisper, a faint, chilling voice that seemed to come from all around her. "Thank you, Emily. Now, we're one." She looked up, but the room was empty. Only David's lifeless body remained. But in the silence, she felt it, a presence, cold and relentless. Adam was still here, and now he had a new vessel. Emily stood, her heart pounding. She knew she couldn't stay. The facility, her life's work, had become a place of nightmares. She needed to leave, to escape the consequences of her ambition. But as she turned to go, she felt a hand on her shoulder, cold, firm, and unmistakably real. "Don't go," the voice whispered. "We're just getting started." Emily screamed, the sound echoing through the empty halls. She ran, but no matter where she went, she felt his presence, always just a step behind. She had opened a door that could never be closed, and now she was trapped in her own creation. In the end, Emily Thorne disappeared without a trace. The facility was abandoned, left to decay in the shadow of the Alps. But those who ventured near spoke of whispers in the wind, of shadows that moved on their own. And somewhere, in the depths of the abandoned facility, the cold voice of Adam waited, patient and eternal, for the next soul to dare the impossible.